Okay.
Just explain.
Yep.
Like, and otherwise, the people that don't get it, they'll still.
All right. I think we are. So we're live now. So let's see. Here we go.
Talk for an hour.
All right.
I don't see that being a problem for us.
No, I don't either. So far it's just us in here. All right. So we got a little times kind of mixed up there. Whoever's rewatching this.
I meant to schedule it for 6:30.
Mumsy.
There we go.
Mumsy, Faja, Yankee Kyle.
Hey, Mumsy.
We got our times mixed up a little bit. Appreciate you guys jumping in. Nugget is going to be on camera here momentarily. Good to see you all. Cheers back at you. There he is.
There. I'm back. Love to see all you guys.
All right. So we got a couple family members in here.
Yeah, it's good time. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to have to get glasses a little bit for this.
Hard for skeletons to wear glasses.
I know. There's no ears. Maybe I'll get a monocle.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Faja. I don't think Rose in here. I know she had made a comment earlier that she shared it out. I don't think she jumped in yet. So on you, brother.
Are you able to post a comment?
Yeah. Not from the StreamYard, but I can do it on I have my phone muted and got us on here, so. Did you want me to post a comment?
Let me get into my thing so I can give you a wrench. Because I can't see the chat, so me modding is not.
Oh, I got you. Well, everybody in here is good right now.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a couple of things we're gonna talk about tonight, huh?
Oh, God.
So we're gonna see how deep this rabbit hole goes.
That rabbit hole goes deep. I think we got weeks worth of content.
I know. How's everybody doing? I see Mumsy said she's doing good. You know, 5 people in chat right now, brother.
All right, do your comment.
The test comment. Hey, y'all. I got to give the. Although I'm not drinking the whiskey tonight, I'm drinking beer. Awoken.
There you go.
All right. Well, I can respond with comments here, or we'll just respond probably just with talking, but and then
yeah, we talk all the time. And there's just so much going on lately. How many people do we have?
So there's 5 people in here, hanging out, ready to hear us talk about some weird stuff.
Weird stuff. We got weird stuff going on. We got string theory, quantum, angels, heaven. Yeah, we don't have a subject we haven't covered yet, scientifically.
We'll probably just start somewhere and ramble through to get somewhere else and be like, how do we start talking about this?
Oh, yeah. Like, energy is our biggest subject right now. What is energy?
Yeah. Yeah, we started talking, realized that the the scheduled time was off a bit, and we were like, we better go live now because we're going to talk about all this if we just sit on here.
Yeah,
You know? Then we'll have to be like, what did we say earlier? What were we talking about?
yeah, we kind of just go off rambling. We were just letting it out already, and I'm like, God, we will have a show. We just
Exactly.
We'll just comment. Great show.
Great show. Hope you guys like that. So, all right. So you actually, I think the good thing to do would be let's just start it off where kind of we started the conversation. So on Shug's live Tuesday, there was some comments that came through that sparked your interest, right?
Yes.
Some theories.
There was a lot of different theories.
Can you name? I don't remember. I actually did not catch that part. I don't know how I missed it, but
Battlestar Galactic theory, which I know the movie. I didn't watch it for a while. Okay, not that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna have to.
And what was that theory? Was that the
Battlestar Galactic theory?
The gods and angels are an alien? We're all aliens. That type of
something like that. Well, something about God being an alien, which he is. No matter what way you put it, any biblical sense, he is. He's not from this planet.
Well, especially because he, in my opinion, he created the planet. That God, in my opinion, is creator of all things. So
yeah.
I could say I don't disagree with that. I guess it depends on how your perspective is of alien, right? So if someone's saying no, this is a being who lived on planet X and they came and they genetically modified and produced, I can see that people see it that way as well. You know, but you'd call, Bob over there. Bob's the alien god, right?
I don't know
if that was the Battlestar Galactic or whatever theory or not, but that's what I was trying to understand.
Yeah, and I got to look into that theory a lot more. But me, I mean, like you say, energy. I mean, if he created all this, he's still an alien, but there's clearly more to it than, how do I put this? Like an ascension.
Sentient, yeah. Sentient energy, right? Okay. Now, yeah. So, and I think it's interesting when you think this isn't like tech talk. This is more maybe philosophical talk. In the paranormal field isn't just ghosts, right? I mean, it's like ghosts. You get aliens as paranormal, and the different creatures.
Pretty much X-Files.
Right, exactly. Right. That's kind of how it's pretty wide spectrum there. So, do people who believe in aliens necessarily believe in ghosts, and vice versa? Or when I say aliens, I mean like extraterrestrial. Or would it be accepted that a spirit could be an alien? Not necessarily a human spirit. If a human spirit, alien just means not from this, right? So an alien, an extraterrestrial would be someone not from this planet. So a spirit that was human, would you consider that alien, or would you consider it human spirit? And I'm actually leading that somewhere when we got that discussion of God. Well, the Word of God says God is spirit. So okay, is spirit alien? Sure, I can see that.
Oh yeah.
Ghost Mama, what's up?
And then we talked about the angels, and that's what kicked me is the Jewish picture of angels. It's more proving of spiritual energy because the way they picked it. Let me see if I bring it back up. I think I accidentally closed it when we kicked in the live.
And what's interesting, I'll go ahead and preempt this. So the picture that you brought up, I instantly recognized, not from seeing the picture, but from reading Ezekiel. The description. This is the pictures from when Ezekiel is seeing the throne of God, and he sees He just describes the cherubim around it. And the ones I think you were showing, was it the circles inside circles with eyes? That's a description
Yes.
that he gave. And that's why it was drawn, because that's how Ezekiel describes it. And I was telling you the interesting thing, if you read that, is how he describes their actions. And what they're doing is, he says it's like lightning, interestingly enough, that they're shooting out and coming back real fast, like lightning from the throne into the world. And I just thought it was, with our discussion of energy, and you seeing that brought into you the thought of energy, and I just thought that was interesting, because I didn't know if you had actually read that, what that was from.
I did not have time to read it, but once I saw it, it kind of basically depicted what we talk about, and that's what kind of made me go, crap, there's a lot to this.
And yeah, Wogan. So I mean, I see what you're saying. It's an interesting facet to, just the concept and perception with that. So if we created something new, right, and placed it out there, and that thing said, "Well, where did I come from? And how was I made?" And found out, "Oh, you made me," then it makes that intelligent being, quote unquote, their God. Yeah.
Well, God would have to be some sort of, I don't know, definitely a higher energy being, or like I say, it would be ascension. Because we don't know ascension, so I guess I could throw that out there.
Well, and was it you and I that was having this conversation? I think we were last time. Did we talk about the double slit theory last time? I know I talked about it on BTI with Jared.
Probably. We talked about a lot of stuff.
So when we're talking about, all right, so when you're thinking about, again, this conversation of what is energy, right? And then that consciousness, that I'm just going to say consciousness, all right? The double slit theory is a famous physics experiment. You can actually test it. Well, you can't fully test it, but they have tested. It's very interesting. So, are you aware of it? First off, Nugget, is it ringing a bell?
Not really, but
Okay. So, everybody who's listening, look it up. Get on YouTube later and just type in double slit experiment. All right. It's super cool. So, the way it works is, it all came about by trying to understand what light was. Is light a wave? All right. Or is it a particle? All right. So, when they shined, so, and you can do this yourself. You can actually get little discs that you can buy that have little slits in it, very small ones. And you can shine a laser, put a laser down, put it in a little vise or something, turn it on, and put this little thing in front of it that has a tiny, tiny little slit, and put a piece of paper behind it. And when it goes through the slits, it'll have a bunch of slits. If it goes through the slits, you'll see a wave pattern. All right, so it goes through one. You shine it through both, it would actually create what is it called? Is it a dispersion pattern? No, man, now I'm forgetting my physics. But anyways, there's a wave pattern, then they cross. All right, it's not called a dispersion pattern, and I'm forgetting my words, but it creates. All right, you'll see this wave pattern actually present itself. So that shows that light is a wave. But the most interesting thing about it is when they went to actually look, when you go to look to see how it's going through, is it going through this slit or this slit type of ordeal, and you want to see exactly how it's coming through, the pattern actually changes from acting like a wave to acting like a particle, and it creates a different pattern. So just by observing what it's doing, it changes how it operates. And if you stop looking at it, it goes back to acting like a wave, and it creates a different dispersion pattern on the back. That should flip everybody out. Oh, here we go. Back to this one.
So yeah, that is, well, this is the closest one I could find from what we were talking about, but it's clearly some energy being encapsulated, which would make more sense.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, he describes it as rings within rings, which I don't think it says there, and full of eyes. Yeah, it does say burning wheels filled with eyes. It says wheels within wheels is what he says, and full of eyes all around. I honestly, the only place I can think of where the person with wings came from is kind of the similar statement, but it's not just a guy with wings. He's got a lot of different features. Actually, it's 4 wings, not 2. But yeah. So, but anyways, this double slit, again, we're talking about, excuse me, going back to thinking about energy and sentience, all right, consciousness. How can something like light change the way it operates just because you're observing it? You stop looking at it, it goes back to operating like a wave. You observe it, it operates like a particle. Physics shows that light operates like both. Without that experiment, the math shows that it has both the functions and features of a wave and a particle, which doesn't make sense at all. But yet it does. Yet the math proves it out. And that experiment actually showed more than they wanted it to, that yeah, it definitively is both. But why does it choose? How can something like that choose? Or if it's not choice, is something else choosing to stop you from being able to see something, you know? So a sentience seems to be in control nonetheless.
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing as quantum.
As what?
You don't know quantum.
Oh, quantum. Mm-hmm.
The paired atom theory, no matter how much distance, you don't know if it's positive or negative or up or down until you observe it.
We're talking about, yeah.
It's always the opposite. So if it's up, the partner's down.
Yeah.
But they're not done until it's observed.
Yeah, quantum entanglement here. Yep. And again, that's super interesting. And Einstein had a problem with that, but
I can see that.
and I think his actual statement was that he like something like God wouldn't roll the dice like that or something. You know, he was like, I don't have that, but it was proven. I guess proven. It's not proven out. The math supports it. That's the problem with quantum. The kicker is there's no like probing test you can do. It's just math that math of probabilities is all you have with quantum.
The minute you test it, it changes.
Right. But this brings back something else you and I were talking about or earlier. And, you know, we were talking about, you know, this field is not a science, considered pseudoscience. And the biggest problem people have is you can't prove it. You can't create an equation to prove it, or you can't create something to prove. There's no way to prove it. And I was telling you that it's funny that earlier this week, I watch a lot of like physics documentaries and so forth. It's just what I like. And I was watching this one, and I can't remember the guy's name. The guy who not discovered the atom, but postulated the atom, that we're all made up of tiny little particles called atoms. All right, everything. And the physics world, for the most part, was against him. And their reasoning for it was, you know, we can't see it. We can't probe it to test it. There's nothing we can do to prove it. Therefore, it can't exist. That was the scientific world that said that. And it took a lot of really smart people to embrace it and think about how the physical world works to actually discover that it is real, it is true, and we use that, you know, in so much now of our understanding of the physical universe Not to mention, weapons of mass destruction that definitely prove it out. But so much that proves out the existence of that were made of atoms, right? So the thing is, we want to make that widget that will detect them. We need to first determine what are they made of. What are they? If we can detect, if we know what they are, then we can figure out a way to hopefully detect them. Now, if it gets onto that quantum side, like we were talking about, that's a little more hard. That's harder to deal with.
But we can deal with it. It's now being, there's a lot of quantum out there. But yeah, basically, the biggest thing we're talking about is we have done enough with the science or with proving they're out there. We have EVPs, you see cat balls flying around. Clearly, there's something there. Now we got to figure out more of the science aspect. Start actually collecting. This is what's happening during this.
And that's, I agree, because I made the comment, on my team numerous times, guys, it's one thing to just take this device and put it out in the field and turn it on and hear something and say, oh, listen to this. This is an EVP. But what electronic voice phenomenon doesn't give you much. All right. We can call it that, and we all understand, oh, that's an electronic voice phenomenon. It's a voice that was captured that shouldn't be there. How was it captured? Was it captured through the microphone of that device because compression waves through the air actually vibrated that microphone? Or is this the microphone was acting as an RF antenna and actually captured, I know we always hear, oh, it's just radio bleed, blah, 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 blah. What if they're speaking through radio frequency? What if it's RF that they use, a form of the electromagnetic spectrum, to speak? And that antenna, that microphone is essentially an antenna, and it grabbed RF. What is it? So it's like understanding and testing against those things. If it's RF that they're speaking on, and you go into an area where it's active, and every time I go in there, I get EVPs, and you take your device, your spirit box, and you set it there, I'm going to get, or not, I'm sorry, your digital voice recorder or your camera, you get EVPs, right? And I always get stuff on my spirit box coming through. All right. So let's do this. I know if I put a radio, in a Faraday cage, I should not get any RF interference. I should not get, I don't care if you have an antenna or not. 0 RF gets through metal. It doesn't penetrate metal. So put this in aluminum foil, and I should not get anything on my spirit box. Okay, now do that same test with your digital voice recorder. All right, it doesn't stop air. If you just put aluminum foil around that, it's still going to get. You'll still hear your voice through when you're talking. But if it's RF that they're using to speak into that digital recorder, then it should stop. You should, if you get EVPs all the time, try that. We all should be trying that and see if you get EVPs. If you don't, then there's a clue there.
Biggest thing I noticed with the EVPs though is you could tell because it's actually making sense. It's not just random. Like if it was radio bleed, it'd be random. You hear music kind of in the background.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not arguing that. Arguing against that. I agree with you. And the different voices. You can go. You can go to an area that has almost no RF in the area. It's just not penetrating. We all know there's pockets like that. My house is actually one of them.
Oh yeah.
And but you can still get EVPs there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's not radio bleed, but again, that doesn't mean they're not speaking, communicating somehow through the electromagnetic spectrum of RF.
But that was why one of our theories were quantum level, because the few things that can pierce the quantum level is radio waves, light, and what was the other one? infrared or something like that.
Well, infrared would just be light, right? So I mean, everything on the electromagnetic spectrum, you can see going through there because, I mean, how do you? Light is. We just had this conversation too. It's a massless particle, if you will. It's also a wave, and traveling as fast as it is, and it just has a lot of different properties. Anything you add with mass may have difficulty, you know. But again, quantum level is going down to that quanta, so that photon is quanta. We've taken it down to quanta.
But also at that level, you can affect temperature, you can affect sound.
It has to.
Heat, and you can affect. I mean, there's so much of what we're seeing on EVPs that can be affected by that level or other levels at which all these theories are covering.
So here you go, and here comes the. All right, hold on. Actually, I'm gonna pause this because Awoken is actually saying some stuff about the slit experiment. Let me go back up here. All right, here's Awoken. This is a good statement here. That's slit experiment is one of the most important experiments ever produced, as it should not be possible for that experiment to work. Fact. Like, I agree 100%. It should melt everybody's brain that actually happens. It does not make sense, and it both intrigues and bothers physicists, of which I am not. But if they're bothered by it, then I know me being bothered by it is justified. Another way it's similar to seeing shadows or figures looming in a room from the corner of your eye. But when you look, there's nothing there to see. Okay, that's an actually interesting one. So if you know about the cones and the rods in our eyes, like every schoolboy and schoolgirl should, right? So let's see, let me try to remember this. Is it cones that detect light, rods? We have more cones than rods? I think that's how it is. Anyways,
something like that.
I'm gonna use rods. All right. So the rods in our eyes they see motion. All right. Rods are their biggest purpose is for motion. Cones are for color. So seeing something, so you have more rods. So when you see something move over here in that peripheral vision, it's interesting that we tend to see more in our peripheral going around or moving, or in the dark, in that dark room, you can actually still see stuff moving around. There's no color there, but you can see the motion and that slight variant, and that's the cones in your eyes taking over. And it is an interesting feature there. I'm not necessarily it's quantum, but I mean it just shows that hey, here's a natural mechanism that's built into us that is seeing something. It's triggering our brain to say, hey, something just moved over there, basically. So if it was a tiger, it's probably going to jump out and kill you, that primitive man. And but it still exists and it's proven. We have that.
And that's where our primitive functions will come in. And that's where cameras come in now. Cameras see the light and that's why they can pick up a few more of the things.
All right, I'm just reading this. Slit experiment, pieces that are forces at work beyond our five senses, from the sixth sense, or the fourth plus higher dimension levels of traveling through space and time itself, possible for spirits. And I have no problem getting into the dimension talk. It's all we get very theorized. Even the fourth dimension is technically theorized, right? So fourth dimension we understand is space-time.
What is it called? Hyper or helix or something like that? A fourth dimensional object?
Maybe. I don't know that. I just know it's space-time. So
research on it once.
So and I look at things as dimension, right? The dimension to me it just stands out as a word. So length, width, height is easy. It's dimensions of something, we're in three dimensions. And space-time is a measure to me of distance, But after that, we start getting into string theory and, alternate universes, alternate this same world, but things are slightly different, and it starts building on top of that up until 10. And I can't even remember what they all are.
Well, here's the fourth dimension theory, and it's a tesseract.
Oh, the tesseract. All right, yeah, okay.
Or hypercube.
Oh, hypercube. Yeah.
Basically, it's an object in 4 dimensions, and that picture doesn't depict it well.
You really can't. Yeah.
There's a few more depictions, but it's basically a cube on top of a cube, which is real. They have proven this happens. We can't understand it. Our brains kind of don't comprehend all of it, but
yeah.
It's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Well, that kind of gets in like the quantum level and the light moving faster, which has all been proven. That time doesn't move the same for everything.
Well, it actually, no, so technically the time does move the same for everything, but it's all relative to the perspective of the thing. So if you were traveling at the speed of light, time would be moving just as it, like we could, if you and I started moving at the speed of light right now, we really wouldn't see much of everything in our surrounding. Our whole little bubble, our room just started moving at the speed of light. You and I would just be do. When you looked outside, though, at everything that's not moving at the speed of light, it would just be like frozen in place. And from their perspective, looking at you, it would just been
Well, now they're saying, I think it was Einstein or one of them said that at the speed of light, time practically stops.
Based on your perspective, right? So it stops for you looking out. So if you're traveling, the faster you travel against something going slow and you look at it, it's going to look, if I was walking 3 miles per hour and you traveled past me at the speed of light, I would be like this. It would be frozen in place. Time would have seemed to stop. But if I was to reach over and grab my beer, it's not like I was moving like this, super slow. I move at regular pace, that's the theory of relativity. That's where Einstein was like, this is what relativity is. It's all relative to the perspective of how fast you're going on the speed of light scale.
Because I know they're trying an experiment to reverse time.
And see, I don't think that's ever going to be possible. Just because I think I know we have a concept of past and future, but I don't think there's no past to go back to. It's just right now. That happened, when you look at measurement in everything, the universe itself is just a measurement of change. Change is unstoppable. Entropy is unstoppable. All right. So the first law of thermodynamics says it's just going to happen. Energy is going to dissipate to another form, and it just changes states, never goes away. But it always wants to go to entropy. It wants to go from order, from this solid hand, to disorder, decomposed, and energy dispersed. And when you hear about the heat death of the universe, that's entropy. That's when all the energy has moved through and has nowhere else to go and ends to a zero state. Heat, which is thermodynamics, has nowhere else to go. Everything's just stopped. It'll eventually get to zero and the universe is done. So that's where I'm like, it's just.
Yeah.
I'm gonna rewind it back. I'm gonna go back to we paused here, and
let
me get back to this thought of, okay, let's get back to, you got spirits and they're talking to us, all right, and how are they talking? All right, so are they talking through actually having a way to vibrate air that, here we go, we have our EVPs. You've got your spirit box, it's ITC, and we use those terms. I know everybody gets in a fuss about that. And then you have your disembodied voice, your DV, DVP.
Well, either way, any type of energy or that would be able to manipulate either air, light, or frequencies.
Okay.
Radio.
So this is what, it's easy to say that, except for you have to have a starting point. All right. So you can't create energy out of nothing.
Correct.
There has to be an action of energy inputted to export energy. All right. You have two cue balls and you hit this one into this one goes and this one stops. Why? Because the energy came from you hitting that cue ball with your pull stick, right? Hitting that, so your force transferred into that ball, into the other ball, and the other ball goes. There's no way to make that first ball go without applying energy. Just like there's no way to present my voice without drawing in air, pushing it out over my vocal cords to vibrate air. Same with a radio wave. There's no way to produce a radio wave without first producing the energy or transforming the energy into that to create it out. So the question has to come. It's easy to say their energy. It's easy to say, well, they're just manipulating X to create this. How? They don't have vocal cords. So how did you just hear that disembodied voice? Now, all that is vibrating air at a certain frequency so that my ear could hear it. That's it. That's all, a voice is. So it's possible. It's definitely possible that air could be they could vibrate air, but how? What form of energy are they using? And I'm only bringing this up. I know it's all thought experiment, but I'm only bringing it up because if we get into the nitty gritty of this thought and start comparing what we're capturing and how that device works, our ear, the digital recorder, the spirit box, and start finding common denominators with everything and how they could have actually captured that. Now, if we have a handful of things that could have done it, we can start breaking it down. Okay, if it's this, how do we explain that? What can we do to stop it or amplify it, right? If it is them doing this, then how can we amplify it? If this was the way, and go through each step with those to create the widget that actually gets put in play to test out the theory.
Yeah, so we can actually, at the end of, eventually, I'd like to be able to just say, that's a ghost, he's this form, or that, this is what he is.
Yeah, and I know you heard him right here, but technically he's over here, and the response of the physical, energy just manifested right here. But I can see that but I can detect that they're actually right here because this is what their signature is, and this is what the signature of what they did is, and you can actually track that around.
That would be awesome.
And okay, another one is what poltergeist stuff. So something that could go move that physical object over here, or someone getting pushed, scratched. That should definitely draw some serious questions of how could this happen? How much force does it take to do that? I think I was listening to something earlier this week that was like to heat like 1 milliliter of water, 1 degree. All right. 1 degree takes the same amount of energy that it takes to lift a 25-pound weight 3 feet in the air. It's much.
Holy crap.
Actually, it's not 25 pounds, it's 25 kilograms. So what's the ratio there? I don't know my kilograms to pounds, but that's how much energy. But we know that information. We understand how to calculate energy. I don't, but we do as society. The information's out there. So if we were actually to take this from pseudoscience and make it science, this is where we need to go with it, right? We need to say, okay, if they're doing this, then it actually takes this to make that happen. Here's the math. How could they do it? And start digging in.
So basically what you want to find out is what it takes for a massless object to move a massed object.
Move a mass or create energy that would affect the environment around it to move it. I mean,
Yeah.
I have no idea. I have never seen a spirit move this bottle, but I'd be curious is if it did and I touched that bottle, would it be hot? Or if I had a thermometer on it, would the heat increase? That's energy dispersion. That's thermodynamics. You know what I'm saying? If you create force, you know, on this, there's heat, there's friction. So there should be something measurable with all of that.
Yeah, that would take a lot of energy. Yeah, and that would be the number one question: is what it takes for a massless object to move an actual mass object.
Yeah.
How would they do it?
I mean, I can go a million different ways. Think about every scenario that is discussed or experienced in our field. You know, we can all sit out and throw out, oh, I've seen this happen. I've had this personally happen to me. I've heard this story, and compile all these things. And there's a lot of common, denominators there and stories and what people experience, and nail down, just pick 5 and say, okay, how is this possible? I was talking to you earlier about, I'm thinking of things, every matter is made of atoms, right? And this is energy in matter form, right? And it holds charges. Everything has a charge. It's either neutral, positive, or negative. So we know, I'm just talking about take the EMF, we use these EMF tools all the time. Well, how is EMF just randomly pocketing right here? And I postulated to you, what if they're negatively charged? A charged particle moving, it doesn't have to be negative, but a charged particle moving creates an electromagnetic field just because it's moving. If it's stationary, there isn't any. But the moment you move an something with a charge through space-time or through a conductor, but just talk about space-time, it creates a magnetic field. And is that what we're just sensing? Is they're moving? So if they have a charge, then they have to be some kind of particle. And they don't have to be massless. They just have to be small enough that we can't visually see them. Right?
Well, can you create mass out of energy? You've got lightning. I guess that would be plasma.
Did you say, can you create mass out of energy? I'm going to tell you yes, because all right. So I am not. I'm going to make a statement, and I'm not going against my faith here. But if you listen to physics, absolutely you can, because physics says that everything you and I are made of right now, from a supernova, from a star, all that fusion did, fusion is taking hydrogen molecules, that's the key component there, right? And through energy, all right, compressing and heat, it is creating a different molecule altogether. You just created different matter from a previous form. And that hydrogen had to come from something. So yeah, so all of this is created from energy, right? So when I decompose, my cells, they decompose and something else takes that and eats it, and it creates more cells just from the energy that it got from eating me, right? That's creating matter out of energy. I know. What does that say, Nicole? Brent, you are another version of Nugget. Yeah, my brother from another mother. Yeah, Nicole. Nicole just said, learning so much, understanding not so much. There's more questions here than anything. Like I think the key here. I think the key is not jumping to. We know what we want to attain, but not so much jumping to trying to make something or utilize all the widgets we see in the field. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to stop. But questioning what is actually happening. If we understand how this radio works, right? We understand what its designed function is to do. So we know, A, if something comes through, it could be through that facet, through what it's designed to do. All right. So we look at that circuit and we say it should only be able to do this. But if you were to add this into the mix or put it near this, it may start acting quirky. Okay. What is that quirkiness? What does it do? Does it produce something that sounds like a word? And if so, can we test it? If it was so easy to say that you put it next to a strong electromagnetic field, you may start hearing things that really aren't there. That's great. We don't want to hear things that really aren't there unless it's actually being some from a spirit. But if we could test it and show it out, like, yeah, it actually does work. And then in the field, make sure you control your environment so that whatever electromagnetic field or something was not there to disrupt it or trick it. You can control that, but yet it still happened. Now you have another cue, another clue there to say, okay, now I've set up a controlled environment. An electromagnetic field that should not have been, that was not naturally there, did occur, and it did affect this, and I got a word. So now we have two facets here. An electromagnetic field that shouldn't have been there, and we got that response. And it was an intelligent response on top of that. Now we're starting to understand who or what they are much better.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what we need to figure out is, yeah.
The question field in quantum mechanics is a theoretical subject where test after test keeps proving that it's there and it's real, but humans are still scrambling to figure it all out. And the kicker is it's really more of an understanding of the potential of it. Isolating it and saying it that, hey, here you go, it's 100%. That's why it's not 100%, because we really can't prove it.
Well, we can't. We're utilizing it at this point. I mean, with quantum computers and that, they're utilizing the quantum mechanics.
They're utilizing the theory of quantum mechanics, because quantum computing they're not really sending, bits of information into the quantum realm and bringing it out on the other end. It's an encryption. And quantum computing is just encryption. So it's based on that entanglement theory, right? So that if it's a 1 here, it has to be a 0 over here. That's the speed of it. Instead of transmitting that through and encrypting it through these different, all the way through, they can do these different nodes to 1-0 it down. And if it's a 0 here, it had to be a 1 here. And there you have and it puts the information together properly. At least to my understanding. That's how it works from what I've studied of it.
I know, there's just so much more to study. And that's the other problem. There's just too much to get involved in.
And yeah, we're at the bottom of there's men and women out there that have been just doing this, for generations.
Lost their minds doing this stuff.
And it's lost their minds and their lives to it. They've definitely lost a lot. The kicker of it is what's accepted and not accepted. Like this field is not accepted. They don't want to understand it or spend money on finding a way to prove it or disprove it.
Yet they'll spend. Okay, so my friend was reading an article. They spent $5 million for a guy to figure out science is racist.
Science is racist?
Yep.
What?
$5 million grant or something like that to figure out science is racist.
Oh, that's an agenda-based something.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm like, God, maybe I could get a grant. If they can find a grant for that.
Yeah. Give me a grant to prove that this is real. And I mean, there's scientists out there that have tried. I do think if we honestly look at what the scientific world has proven, it will make us wiser to our universe, our surroundings, so that we're not just automatically labeling something as paranormal. I think that's first. If it's paranormal, let it be paranormal, but always try to show that it's not. And with every ability, show that it's not. Prove, if you understand your equipment, then you should be able to show why this works or doesn't work. I think we talked about, the paranormal music box last time, about how the creator, if you read anything written up on it, or any device really that's in the paranormal field out there to purchase, they'll say, yeah, I don't really know how it works, but everybody says it does. And to me, that's not the statement it should be. It should be, this is exactly how it works. These are the things that can trick it. Now, if you can isolate your environment and show that it's not one of these things, and it happens, then, or it's a clue to that it actually is, they're doing something to create this scenario. So if you can isolate and make sure naturally or man-made wise, you do not have that kind of contamination, and yet it manifests, now you have a clue that something paranormal could have happened.
Filter out what if you could. What is it? What did he say? If you could eliminate the explained, would be left as the unexplained, which would be your answer.
Yeah. And I mean, if you go with Occam's razor, it's what's the simplest answer. But Occam's razor isn't necessarily the way to go in this field. I mean, if it was, physics wouldn't even really happen, right? Because it would be like, that's not an easy answer. We can't go that way, so we're going to ignore that. So
the problem is our field is so much in the theoretical realm.
It is. And again, that's why it's in that. And it's not even in a scientific theoretical. It's more in a, I don't even know it's not even necessarily in a spiritual theoretical realm. It's just in a, I believe this is happening. You have there's different mind frames of why a spirit is even existing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it existing based on the laws of physics in the universe? Is it based on a spiritual belief? Is it, blah, 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 blah. There's all these different things.
Yeah. A lot of it. I just lost my thought.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I do that a lot. ADD kicks in.
I agree, science.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it, we have a better chance of proving stuff now than when this science was considered pseudoscience.
Yeah, and I agree.
We know a lot about energy. We know a lot about the quantum, a lot more than we ever did.
Yep.
We have string theory. How many other?
And again, it's so if you were going to rest in string theory as an alternate universes, right? Or then are we saying that a spirit isn't really a spirit as we're thinking, like a past, like I died and now you're communicating with my spirit? Or is the suggestion then that it's actually a communication with another reality or another universe that happens to be close enough that it's some kind of
really jumped down a rabbit hole there.
it's either something like that. So that's where string theory, I think, would come into play.
Yeah.
Or is it actually, however it is, the energy of your consciousness, your spirit, whatever you want to call it, your soul, actually leaves your body and either stays here, wanders around, goes somewhere, whatever. There was a scientist. I can't remember his name. I can't remember any of their names. Remember watching a documentary that showed that he did experiments on people who were about to die, and his purpose was to discover if the soul was real, then it had to have some type of mass because of energy. That it was energy, but it had to have mass, and therefore, when you died and it left your body, there had to be a measurable difference. Did you heard of that too?
Yes, and did you actually something happened where
Well, he ended up going to, I guess, a hospital where people were on their last
hospice
days,
or something?
hospice, and he got them to agree to allow him to measure their body. So that he put the person on a table, and it was a scale essentially, and he added a bunch of weights, and he got it. I don't even know how low he got it. I honestly can't remember. You have to look it up. But he was actually able to measure when they actually passed. There was a weight difference, and it wasn't just air expelling from their lungs. It was greater than that. So it wasn't a lot, but it was a measurable difference. And I don't know how seriously he was taken, but it's documented, and doesn't mean it's true, but it is documented.
Documented. Something happened.
But that, yeah, allegedly, I guess he said it happened. So, but again, it comes to that: where's the mind frame start at to test this out? I think that's another thing. So to me, it's in this field. The more people who actually try to prove it, not prove out that spirits are real, but prove how this device is working. Understanding the devices and understanding it with an intention of understanding what they actually are will lead us to a position to be able to create a better widget that can detect that, and a better understanding of our environment to ensure that that it's controlled, and
Yeah.
then we do get into the realm of understanding them, being able to detect them, and even potentially being able to detect them before they're speaking or whatever, and be able to say, whoa, I just got, it's instead of just walking around with the K2 like, oh, it just blinked, knowing exactly what had to have happened to make that blink, right here, or go to this level, exactly what would have to happen there. And
or the next step. Okay, the K2 blink. Let's take it to the next step. Let's get such and such out and measure it to an actual degree. That's the problem. If there is no degree of measurement, you get EVP.
Yes.
How do you measure an EVP or a spiritual sense?
Yep.
How can you measure a spirit? That's what we got to figure out.
That's exactly right.
Measure them.
And the only way to ensure we can measure them is to understand what they actually, either what they are, so we should be able to measure that, or how they affect our environment. We're not educated enough either. Oh, well, we're just in here talking.
That was a good one. Oh, that's sometimes how it comes out too. I'm pretty sure to some people we're coming up blah blah blah.
Yeah, and that is. But I think the core understanding is it really is, and this is our tech talks, and I think this should all come back to the tech we're using, and really understanding how that tech operates. And like we talked last time, we should be eventually just digging into. Hey, look at this widget. This is what we use. This is exactly what it does, and how it can be tricked, or what it actually is seeing, and what do we know of that can actually make that happen. And if they are able to fall into that realm, what does it say about them? Again, charged particle moving creates an electromagnetic field. That's just physics.
Yeah, because that was like your discussion we had about battery. Clearly, there's charged particles in the battery.
Yeah.
But it does not pull the magnetic field, because then I pointed out that they're not moving.
They're not exact because they're not moving. And I actually asked you, I was like, so would you consider a battery energy? And it's not. It's potential, right? But until you apply a load, there's no energy. It's not doing anything. It's just dormant potential.
I think we're gonna have to.
Yeah, we're about that. We're at that hour mark. What did you say? I heard of that when someone died. Oh yeah, 5 or 6 grams of mass was recorded literally leaving the physical body. It was not gases. I remember that too. And they recorded leaving the body. Yeah. So 5 or 6 grams. I mean, that's okay.
That's a
So
lot.
now that's a significant, to me, that's a significant amount of weight. You know, and think about, you know, where is it going and what are the other measurements around? You know, energy moving is measurable to, you know, and it has to be measurable in some fashion. So something like that, you would think outside of just a scale, it actually going from here to here should be measurable to some degree.
I would love to redo that experiment, but
Yeah, it's a
there's
morbid,
a lot of
thing.
ethical.
It's morbid, but it's interesting. I know.
There's a lot of ethical boundaries that stop me from doing that, but
And actually, he ran into the same issue. He ran into the same issue. So
probably the reason we haven't done it, you can't do it again. Yeah, you can do it twice, and you know that something's there.
And then the question is, if you did get someone to agree to do it, or a group of people to do it, so you had, you know, you could actually do comparisons to each one, how would it be accepted because of the potential unethical nature of it?
That's the problem. And our science is not accepted though anyway, so I don't care. Like I said, I want to get a doctorate in paranormal science. Where the heck are we going to do that? But yeah, Dr. Nugget. If I could do it, I would.
There you go. Get it. Get it. Well, we're over the hour mark. What do you want to do? You want to call
I
it?
suppose we're probably starting to blow their minds and
Hey, we
Get
still have 4
everybody-
people in here. I'm surprised.
we have how many?
4 people in here. We didn't melt everybody's brain.
So yeah, we'll close it out for today. I think that leaves us material for, I don't know if I'm going to do it next week or 2 weeks, but yeah, watch my channel. Try to see how much material we have and how much more conversations pop up on the other channel. I just saw, I was going to do this once a month, but then all of a sudden people popped in like, oh, we got this, we got that, and I'm going, oh my God, we have to have another live.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Well, hopefully people will start, you know,
If they're
jumping on
chatting a
here,
lot,
adding comments and so forth, and we can start answering questions too.
I think next time I think we should get this Awaken one, the Awaken one on the live.
There you go.
So yeah, if you want to comment, I'll send you a link next time. And next time I go live, we'll have you come on because you seem to have a lot of input on this.
Yeah.
What we talk about, this is our theories, and I think you would have a lot of fun.
That'd be cool.
But yeah, let's close it out for today and say good night, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. All right.